Regarding the issue that we were discussing prior to the break, Judge Dudney and I have conferred, and here's what we think. We would like to see an exhibit tomorrow from Edison with the 3 letters that were identified, the August 28th letter from Edison to Mitsubishi, the a letter by Edison to Mitsubishi that was identified as being received by Mitsubishi on November 13th, and then a letter dated 12/19/2012 from Edison to Mitsubishi. Mr. Palmisano will sponsor that exhibit, as well as 15, 16, and 17, or co-sponsor with Mr. Perez, and will be available Wednesday for cross-examination on all 4 of those exhibits. Now, with respect to the redactions, Mr. Weissman, I direct Edison to make available to any party who has signed a non-disclosure agreement an unredacted version. All right? And you can get the judges copies. We'll review them. I think it's our general thinking that it is unlikely that there is material there that is relevant to Phase 1, but we will look at it. Okay? Any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. I think you referenced an August 28 letter. I believe that's actually a November 28th letter, but I just want to make sure that we're not having a misunderstanding.
You're right. That's from SE 17?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that correction. Mr. Giesman.
Your Honor, can Edison provide the 3 Edison letters to the parties at the end of the day today?
I don't know. When do you think you...
If possible, yes.
If possible.
Thank you.
All right.
And will other parties have an opportunity to sign a non-disclosure agreement? Who have not yet done so?
I mean, we've offered for a long time in this proceeding to have a non-disclosure.
If I can have it now.
Well, I can't do it right at this very moment, but in principle, yes.
That's a discovery matter that should have been taken care of, and you can take care of it outside of the hearing.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Shapson.
Just a small point of clarification. The DRA doesn't sign an NDA, but we can get all of that.
Right.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Of course. Sorry, I should have explicitly referenced DRA. Okay.
No criticism.
You get it. All right. And the judges will get it. All right. Okay, so...
Can I make just one more request relative to Mr. Palmisano?
What's that?
It seems to me from yesterday to today that there's been an inability for the witness proffered by Edison to address, the exhibits sponsored or the questions of the party. And we don't really know for certain whether Mr. Palmisano is going to be able to address these questions. And as a party who has to travel several hundred miles to be here and doesn't have the resources of many of the other parties, we need to get this done this week. So I'm really urging that we not have any more delay by Edison in providing a responsive witness.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Sullivan, you are next up to cross-examine Mr. Perez. Are you ready?
Excuse me, Your Honor. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if I may, I believe there was a pending request from Ms. Venskus to Mr. Perez.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, you were to find out, if you could, the date by which Edison began the placement?
It was the Edison root cause evaluation.
Root cause evaluation, yes. Edison's root cause evaluation. Did you get that date?
Yes, I did. The root cause evaluation was assigned on February the 8th of 2012.
And can you clarify whether that was completely internal or whether it involved an external consultant or one or more consultants?
The team consisted primarily of engineers as well as some operations individuals. There was a consultant as well that participated in the root cause evaluation team. I didn't study it enough to determine whether input from other consultants had been provided.
And which consultant did you identify?
The name of the individual on the cover of the page is Greg Duffy.
Do you know what company he's with or a firm?
No, I don't.
All right.
Okay, so that, I'm sorry, assigned February 7th, you said?
February 8th.
Okay. Do you want me to go into my questions now or wait?
So you've got some follow-up questions on that point?
Well, I mean, I have some follow-up questions now that I know that date, but I can wait. I mean, I don't want to interrupt anybody, or if he's coming back anyway, I can just do it tomorrow, whatever you want.
Ms. Sullivan, do you prefer to go forward, or do you
I'm happy to let...
want to defer to Ms. Benskus to finish up your direct,
Yeah,
or
that's
your
fine.
cross-ons?
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right. How much longer do you think? 15 minutes?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Maybe not
That would work out about right.
Okay, so Mr. Perez, you stated that the root cause analysis was assigned on February 8th, is that correct?
The root cause evaluation was assigned on February the 8th.
What do you mean by the term assigned?
That's when the request to perform the evaluation is entered into the system at San Onofre.
Okay, so does the request have to be entered into the system before the root cause evaluation actually begins?
Yes.
And when did the root cause evaluation assigned on February 8th, when was that finished, the evaluation?
As indicated in the timeline, it was April the 23rd.
Okay, so issued, by the term issued, you mean completed, meaning the evaluation was completed, there was nothing more to do.
That's the date that the chairman of a review board approved the document.
Okay, and on 3/23/2012, I see here, SC submits steam generator return to service action plan to NRC. Is that correct?
I'm not seeing...
March 23rd.
Did I say?
Oh, March 23rd? Yeah, March 23rd is the date that we submitted the return to service plan, yes.
Okay, so is it true then that the root cause evaluation had not been completed at the time that SC submitted the return to service action plan to NRC?
That's correct.
Was the root cause evaluation a basis for the action plan submitted to NRC?
I don't know.
Who would know that?
I'm not certain.
Can we ask Mr. Weissman if he knows, Your Honor?
I don't know for certain, but I would venture to guess that Mr. Palmisano would be an excellent witness to ask that question.
Presumably you're keeping track of these questions for which Mr. Perez is responding, I don't know, and you're responding, Mr. Palmisano might know.
I am taking notes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Palmisano available to
Ms.
come
Jordan, you have not been recognized. And
Excuse me.
You've not been recognized, okay? We discussed Mr. Palmisano. In fact, I referred to it just moments ago while you were here in the hearing room. So I need you to be engaged in these proceedings and not interruption, okay? Thank you.
I had a question. May I ask a question?
You may ask one question, yes.
I wanted to know if Mr. Palmisano could be here to indicate whether or not he can answer the question.
And Mr. Palmisano we already discussed just moments ago on the record that Mr. Palmisano will be here tomorrow, all right? Thank you. Now, Ms. Venskis, would you like to proceed?
Yes, I would, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going back to question 4, page 2 of 3. I see here dated 6/25/2012, Budget Review Committee meeting to defer capital projects.
Correct.
What was the 2012, well, let me strike that. What were the capital projects that were, well, let me ask you this, I'm sorry, let me lay a foundation. So in this Budget Review Committee, were you a part of that committee meeting?
I was not.
Do you have knowledge about the decisions that were made in this meeting, if any, to defer capital projects?
Yes, the results of those discussions are identified in tables in SCE 4.
Okay, and are they identified in tables in SC 10?
Yes.
Okay, and where in SC 10?
Do you need a moment, Mr. Perez?
Just a couple of seconds more.
All right, we'll stay on the record.
Page 10 identifies one set of those projects, and page 9 identifies the second set.
Give me a moment to turn to that those pages, please. Okay, and what were the reasons to defer these particular capital projects, if you know?
The units were not producing electricity, specifically Unit 3, more than Unit 2, project-wise, and we felt it was prudent to defer the completion of these projects until a time when the return to service date was better known.
Okay. Are any of these capital projects listed here in pages 9 and 10 safety related as you define the term?
We don't define a project as safety related or non-safety related. They may be modifications to safety related systems.
Okay, well, yesterday I read your testimony that you agreed defined the term safety related. And I can go back there if you want. I believe your testimony was that all projects are safety related, and you cannot break out safety related from non-safety related as to each expenditure. So based on your definition that you gave yesterday, I'm trying to understand that if these capital projects had not been deferred, would you consider them safety related as you defined the term, or agreed that the definition that you defined the term yesterday?
My recollection is that we discussed a footnote in my testimony that provided a broader discussion of Edison's definition of the term safety related. I don't recall agreeing that all projects are safety related. I cannot break down any of the costs between safety related and non-safety related.
So I feel like I'm not getting a direct answer to my question, and maybe that's just because I'm not asking the question as clearly as I think I'm asking the question. So let me ask it one more time. Would you consider any of these capital projects that were actually deferred as safety related as you defined the term yesterday?
We don't define projects as safety related or not safety related. We do not provide that classification.
Okay. I understand you don't provide the classification, but in your testimony, you state that all of the operations, maintenance, and projects are safety-related, which is why you couldn't break out safety-related in your expenditures, even though you were required to do so by the commission. So now I just need to understand.
Asked and answered argumentative misstates the testimony from yesterday.
It does misstate the testimony. What he said was, as my recollection is that it had a safety aspect.
Okay, do any of these capital projects have a safety aspect?
Several of these projects are work on safety-related systems as defined by the NRC.
So as defined by the NRC, but not as defined by you?
Well, I think the foundational piece is how the NRC defines the system. That's a lot easier to do as far as definition and identification of a system.
Again, my question is, well, let me go back. Your testimony, as I understood it yesterday, was that you use a different definition of safety related than NRC uses. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So my question is, are any of these capital projects safety related as you define the term? You, not NRC. You.
These systems are both safety-related and non-safety-related, again, as we discussed yesterday, and they have impact on the asset protection.
Okay, so when you say systems, you mean these capital projects, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, does the deferral of these capital projects impair the safety of the plant?
Most of the Unit 3 projects were being planned to implement at the refueling outage for Unit 3, so we had not planned to put them in, or implement them at the beginning of the year. So they were scheduled to be implemented towards the tail end of the year. And so the deferral of procurement of those items would not have had an impact on the safety of the plant.
So I understand your testimony to be that the deferral of these capital projects listed in these 2 pages, 9 and 10, would not impair the safety of the plant. Is that your testimony?
That's correct. We would not have rescheduled them if there had been an impact to the safety of the plant.
Okay, thank you. Couple questions about a couple capital projects here. The high-pressure turbine project.
Is there a page in my testimony you want to reference?
Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm referring to the GRC decision, actually.
You want to tie it to his testimony?
Well, I believe in SCE 10, you list expenses associated with the high-pressure turbine project that were expended in 2012. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what are those, how much total was expended in 2012 for the high-pressure turbine project?
For the Unit 3 high-pressure turbine project, we recorded $8,963,000.
Okay, and was that just for Unit 3, or did you also engage in this project with respect to Unit 2?
The number that I cited was just for Unit 3.
Okay. And did SC spend anything on a Unit 2 high-pressure turbine project?
In 2012, for Unit 2's high-pressure turbine project, we spent $7,075,000 in 2012.
Okay. Thank you. And then same question with respect to the service air piping project. How much, if any, expenditures did SCE expend in 2012 for the service air piping project?
Did you have a specific unit in mind?
Unit 2?
Do you need a moment off the record, Mr. Perez?
Yes, please.
Off the record. You may proceed.
I don't have the number on the service air piping right now. I need to see if maybe that project was completed in 2011. I'm not sure, so I can get you that information after the break.
Okay, and do you know if the same project was conducted on Unit 3?
I will check on both of those.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I'm done with my questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Sullivan, you may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Perez.
Good morning.
I would ask you to please speak up because I'm a little hard of hearing.
Okay.
So I'd appreciate you speaking up for me. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is that in your statement of qualifications, you describe your present responsibilities with Southern California Edison Company as manage the generation planning and strategy organization. Is that correct?
I'm a manager in that organization, specifically the Generation Regulatory Group.
I'm sorry?
The Generation Regulatory Group of that division.
So you don't manage the generation planning and strategy organization?
That was the name of the organization about a couple of months ago. We've renamed it now to the Generation Regulatory.
So your current title is?
Principal Manager, Generation Regulatory.
Principal Manager, Generation Regulatory Affairs?
Just no third word, just Generation Regulatory.
Okay. And can you please describe for me what that unit does? What's it responsible for?
We act as a liaison between generation facilities that Edison owns and California Energy Commission and Public Utilities Commission, primarily.
Okay. And which generation facilities are those?
Those would be San Onofre, Mountain View, the hydro facilities, our remaining interests in Four Corners and remaining aspects of Mojave.
And that's the list?
Correct.
Okay. And how many people work in this unit with this responsibility?
In my organization, there's 6 that I manage.
So there's 6 people in your unit?
That's
in
correct.
Generation Regulatory?
Yes.
Including yourself?
Plus myself.
Okay. Okay. One of the reasons I wanted to ask that is because you've been proffered as a witness for a large chunk of Edison testimony, and yet you haven't been able to respond to quite a substantial bit of the information included in that evidence.
Is that a question?
So I guess I'm my question to you is the name change 2 months ago from Generation Planning and Strategy, did that reflect any change in the scope of your responsibility?
It does not.
So that organization had the same exact responsibilities as you presently have?
That's correct.
And yet you don't seem to be aware of a great deal that Edison undertook in 2012 related to its generation facilities and liaising with regulatory agencies. Is that the full scope of your responsibilities, is just liaising with the regulatory agency?
Can you repeat your question?
And just the question, not the argument.
Is the scope of your responsibility limited to liaising with the regulatory agencies for Edison's generation facility?
Well, included in that liaison is that we will assist in the preparation and sponsoring of testimony with respect to any of the regulatory issues that the facilities are facing.
So what does assisting in the preparation of testimony entail?
Individuals at the facilities may be assigned to prepare that testimony. We will assist in writing testimony and preparing documents, as well as providing guidance on the outline for that testimony.
So you don't necessarily provide any technical supervision?
As appropriate, we will provide technical guidance with respect to what is written in the testimony.
And who is the decision maker for Edison about the content of testimony relative to technical matters? Are you an editor, or do you determine the final content of Edison's testimony?
I, as the sponsor of that testimony, would be the decision maker on the content of that testimony.
So you are the decision maker on the content of the testimony?
For my testimony.
For the testimony that you sponsor?
That's correct.
But for the testimony that your unit assists in the preparation of, who is the decision maker for that?
Whoever the witness is for that particular volume of testimony that we prepare would be the ultimate decision maker.
So are you saying that all of the testimony you prepared, you have knowledge of the technical content of that testimony? All the testimony you sponsored, you have direct knowledge of the technical information?
Are we talking about in this proceeding here?
I'm talking about the testimony you have sponsored in this proceeding.
I have technical knowledge of the plant operations. I may not have detailed information as to what occurred at the plant in all cases. I have general knowledge of those activities. But yes, I guess to answer your question, I do have technical knowledge of how the plant operates.
And you consider that knowledge to be sufficient for you to be the decision maker about the technical content of that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. So with that statement, why is it that you've been unable to answer questions related to testimony that you sponsored?
lot of the questions that I've answered have dealt with issues that I have direct knowledge with. Some of the questions I have not been able to answer deal with the requirement to have participated in meetings or be aware of some of the activities that led to decisions down the line.
So what is Edison's usual policy when it sponsors testimony or offers exhibits as to who the appropriate sponsoring witness is?
Just objection relevance, Your Honor.
Well, it could be going to impeachment, I suppose. Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question?
What is Edison's policy for who the appropriate witness is for the exhibits that it offers into evidence?
The normal policy is that the witness that is most knowledgeable about that,
The witness that is most knowledgeable what?
most knowledgeable about the content of the testimony.
So, if I may ask, why were you the witness for the letters that you don't have any knowledge of?
I felt comfortable being the witness for those letters as to the general content, the fact that they were repair plans, specific details about the other letters and the meetings that occurred. I was not there, so I could not comment on those.
Okay. Okay, thank you on that question. I'll move on to some questions about the SC10 exhibit.
Okay.
My first question is in a number of the pages, a number of the individual pages, in the lower right-hand corner, it says prepared, TP, B and FS.
Please provide an example of a page for us so we can all
I'm
look. Could you please provide an example of a page
Sure.
number so we can
I'm
see what you're
looking
referring
at,
to?
Unit 2 incremental, it's page 13. I'm sorry.
13.
Lower right-hand corner.
Okay, I see that.
So I would assume that TP is yourself?
No, it's not.
Okay. So can you tell me who TP is?
TP is Tina Pierce, who works in the business and financial services at San Onofre, who prepared this report under my direction.
So I'm sorry, is his name is what, Peter?
Tina Pierce.
Tina Pierce.
Correct.
And she works where again?
At San Onofre in the business and financial services organization. And she prepared this document under my direction.
But she doesn't work in your unit.
She does not.
Okay. And who is B and FS?
Business and Financial Services is an organization at
so
San
that's her
Onofre.
organization.
Pardon me?
That's her organization.
She works in that organization.
Ms. Sullivan, for the court reporter's benefit, I need you to not talk over Mr. Perez. Allow him to complete his response, and then you can follow up. Thank you.
Is Ms. Pierce the supervisor of that unit?
She is not.
So you know what her job title is?
I'm not exactly sure as to what level, but she is a financial analyst in that organization.
Okay. And who is her supervisor?
Her supervisor is Jael Garola.
Adele?
Jael, Jael.
Okay. And what is that person's position in that unit?
Objection relevance, Your Honor.
Where are you going with this, Ms. Sullivan? You have a set of
This
information
actually
here.
gets to us understanding what the source of this information is.
The source is the Business and Financial Services internal accounting section, which he's described. I'm not sure, identifying individual personnel, I'm not sure where that goes to the relevance.
Isn't the purpose of a statement of qualifications to provide some basis for the, offering of the evidence we'd like?
Mr. Perez's qualifications are in evidence. This was prepared under his direction, and he's brought it forward. He's responsible for the evidence. So the question of qualifications would go to Mr. Perez.
Even though he doesn't supervise the unit that prepared this?
You can ask him where this information came from and whether it was prepared under his direction, whether he's reviewed it.
All right.
But it's not relevant
Okay.
the various analysts within the operation.
All right. My next question is about SCE 13, which is an addendum to the comparison exhibit, SCE 10.
Okay.
What is this table responsive to? Since much of the tables in this comparison exhibit are organized as being responsive to, I presume, one of the ALJ's questions.
The ALJ requested that we submit response to 4 questions, which was Exhibit 10.
So which question is this responsive to?
We also felt that it was proper to provide a breakdown by FERC account for the expenditures that we provided in SCE 10. At the time that we submitted SCE 10, we did not have the summary by FERC account available, and we noted that in our response when we filed this exhibit.
Okay. So this isn't responsive to a specific question, it's just something that you're offering as a... In terms of the organization of your exhibit, does this go in one of the sections that's responsive to one of the 4 questions?
It's an addendum to the entire exhibit.
Okay.
Just to clarify, that is referring back to the sub-accounts for those type of expenses in that were used in the GRC, is that right?
It's the breakdown by functional group, and then within each functional group, the FERC accounts that we actually charged the recorded cost to.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify for me.
Okay. My next question, it may very well be a series of questions. In your tables responsive to question 2, Solon Capital 2012, starting on page 6, for these tables in this section, they each reference an exhibit from which these numbers were drawn, I presume, or at least pages 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 all seem to include a reference to a source exhibit. That is not consistent throughout the comparison exhibit. There's no source information provided. For example, on page 2, on page 3. So I guess my question is, why was a source provided on some tables and not for all of them?
Each of the capital pages relates to a table within SCE 4, as identified there with the page number for each one. The RFO ties into Appendix Appendix 3 from SCE 4, and the inspection and repair costs relate to Appendix 4.
So, I mean, I guess I'm going to have to go through every one of these charts and ask for the source in order to get it.
The source is SCE 4.
For all of it?
For all of the costs. SCE 4 is broken down by base, RFO, and inspection and repair costs. And those are the 3 categories that are identified in SCE 10.
So if Are all of the tables in this exhibit aggregation?
I guess you could call it an aggregation. It is a summary of all of the costs that are in the testimony.
I guess my question is more, is each one of the tables included in this comparison exhibit 10? Is each one an aggregation of source documents?
Each one what? I got confused by your question phrasing.
Every one of the tables in this comparison exhibit, an aggregation of source documents, different source documents.
The source for these costs is all from SCE 4.
I understand that. What I'm asking, SCE 4 is a very large exhibit. It would be helpful to reviewers, to know the source of this aggregation.
Is there a question, Your Honor?
I'm completely confused by your line of questioning, Ms. Sullivan. Yesterday it was testified that this is an aggregation. That's what I ordered, was an aggregation, so that the information which was spread out would be all in one place. Mr. Perez testified yesterday in response to another cross question that the numbers are the same here as they are wherever you find them in SCE 4. But rather than having them spread out, they are aggregated for the benefit of the public, parties, and the commission. If you're not comfortable with 10, it's already been said that it's the same numbers. You're free to work with 4. You can come at the cross however you like, 4 or 10.
Well, just as I asked yesterday, my question would be, which is the controlling document if differences are found?
It's been testified there are no differences. That was the order for the preparation of the exhibit.
Okay.
I'm unaware of any differences. If there are differences, you may feel free to bring them forward, but it's been represented by counsel in good faith that they are not. That was the order, was that the numbers would not be different. So I'm not sure which format you're more comfortable with. You should feel free to use either because it's been represented that the numbers are the same. They're merely aggregated for easier review. It's up to you which document you want to use for your cross, 4 or 10.
Thank you. The rest of our testimony, we have a few, I'm sorry, I have one other question. In your rebuttal testimony, Mr. Perez,
Which one?
SCE 9.
No.
7. At the top of page 7. No, I'm sorry, that's the wrong reference. At the top of page 8. You discussed the fact that the bottom of page 7, the top of page 8, you discussed the fact that even with both units offline, the circulating water system and other plant components must operate to maintain the ability to keep various components in the plant cool and allow for the discharge of wastewater. I would like to refer you to CDSO Exhibit 2.
All right. Let's go off the record for a moment. See this. Could you please identify this document which has been marked as CDSO 2?
And this is from the website of the State Water Resources Control Board, and it describes the review committee for nuclear fuel power plants.
That's not what my CDS2 says.
Oh. Somehow they got mismarked, I'm sorry.
All right. Off the record. What exhibit do we want to look at? Let's get... And what's marked as CDSO2, could you please identify that for the record?
That is from the State Water Resources Control Board website. It describes the Review Committee for Nuclear Fuel Power Plant.
Okay. Do you have the document?
Yes, I do.
It's been marked. I'm sorry, at the beginning we marked CDSO 1 through 6.
Okay. So this section...
The first question is whether he's seen the document and is familiar with it.
I'm sorry?
The first question is whether he has seen the document and if he's familiar with it.
Have you seen this document before?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with this Review Committee for Nuclear Fuel Power Plant?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And Southern California Edison has a representative on this committee, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Are you yourself involved with the work of this committee?
Not with the work of the committee. I interface with the representative that we have on this committee.
Thank you. Is the cost that Edison has incurred to participate in this committee, is that reflected in your 2012 cost? Is it a way to identify what those costs are?
The cost to conduct the study that this committee requested is included in the 2012 costs.
And can you tell me where they are?
They would be in the base O&M cost, but I do not have a particular order number to identify you to.
So you can't tell me where we would be able to identify these costs?
It would be in the support services functional group, but the specific account I can't tell you right now. I don't know it. I'd have to look it up.
So would you be able to segregate for us or tell us what cost Edison has incurred associated with this committee?
I can tell you the cost that San Onofre has recorded to support this committee.
And what's the difference?
The representative that you noted is a corporate individual and does not normally charge his time to San Onofre related activities.
So the cost incurred by Edison by that individual there's no way to capture that?
They are not in my testimony.
Can I ask a point of clarification? When you say corporate, are you talking about corporate Southern California Edison or corporate EIX, Edison International?
Corporate Southern California Edison.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be in corporate support?
No, it's not included in any of my testimony.
So if we want to obtain those costs, we need to specifically request what?
Are you referring to the cost for the representative on the committee?
Costs incurred by Edison to participate in this review committee.
I can give you the cost that San Onofre has recorded and is within this testimony.
And what would be the means by which we could obtain the rest of the cost?
I don't think there's a way to do that. We don't separate our costs by project in that corporate organization.
Okay. So can you direct me specifically to the San Onofre recorded cost?
Now, as I indicated earlier, I would have to look up that account number.
So would you be able to do that during lunch break?
I will certainly try.
Okay. We do have several other questions, Your Honor. I don't know if you want to...
How much longer?
Break. I would say... How much longer do you think we need? I think we think about a half an hour.
Okay, let me just take a quick assessment. Half an hour. Ms. George, you've reserved 3 hours this afternoon. Are you intending to use all 3 hours?
I really couldn't say whether it'll be necessary. It's hard to say, if what the witness is able to answer and isn't able to answer, and what the
Okay.
objections would be. I expect it would be less, but I'm not going to promise it'll be less.
Come back at 1:30. That only gives us 2.5 hours. Well, I guess we'll just move into Wednesday if we have to. All right, let's adjourn. We'll have lunch, come back, be ready to go at 1:30.
Okay.
All right, and that'll be you, Ms. Sullivan, you're on because you're in the midst. Mr. Perez, you may step down, you're not excused, you will remain under oath.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.